Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Facebook Live today. We are joined by Leah Cooper, Family Resource Manager from the Ivy, and Jen Olin, Program Manager at the Ivy. They have graciously agreed to spend some time with us today and tell us a little bit about how supporting brain health and memory wellness in older adults is really beneficial. So welcome, ladies. Thank you for taking the time to join. We appreciate you.
Thank you for
Happy to
having
be
us.
here.
Yeah.
Would both of you, and Leah, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your experience and what you do at the Ivy?
Sure, love to. So my background is I started out a long time ago with a master's degree in counseling, and I was a certified substance abuse counselor for about 10 years and loved it. It was a great experience. From there, I took a little detour and was a Montessori teacher and worked in my kids' school for about 11 years, and then went back to graduate school and did some work in a gerontology certification program. And at that point, came to volunteer at the Ivy and never left. So that was about 7 years ago. I've been an employee here for the last 6.5. I am the family resource manager, and I help families in many ways. I run support groups here for caregivers. I do cognitive assessments. We'll talk more about that, using the BCAT. We have family meetings. Jen and I together meet with our families and help them in the process of caring for their loved ones. And I help families when they need resources beyond the Ivy. I help them find those as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Jen, you're up. Tell us a little bit about how you ended up at the Ivy and what your role is there.
Sure, absolutely. Well, first, thank you so much for having us on again. My degree actually was in communications from NC State. Wasn't really sure exactly where I wanted to go with that. My parents owned a home care agency in Charlotte, North Carolina, called Partners in Care, and needed some help kicking it off the ground. So that's kind of where I started my professional career just outside of college, and really helped them for 11 years grow the home care agency. Did just about every position you could within that company, except for doing the actual hands-on care itself. But really grew the personnel and got really familiar with home care and helping people live independently at home for as long as possible. And then we, as a family, decided to sell the business. And as I was looking for some work and exactly what I wanted to do next, I found the Ivy and decided to do some contract work with them, and really kind of helped with putting processes in place and getting things organized and helping out with programming for about 3 years. Left for about 3 years for what I like to call a heartbreak. Just to give a little bit of time, we were helping so many families. I think our largest at that point was up to 65 people on site at a time.
Wow.
So the amount of families and individuals living with dementia was really great. And I needed a little bit of a heartbreak and could not stay away. So I came back when we reopened after closing during the middle of COVID. And I am now the program manager and help to run all of the programs that are happening on site, both on site, virtually, and then now our brain health workshops that we're doing on Fridays.
Great. Wow, you both have such interesting backgrounds, and it's so really great to hear how you kind of ended up where you are and how your skill set really fits in with the Ivy and their mission. Tell me a little bit, you mentioned programs, Jen, and Leah too. Feel free to jump in. Can you tell us a little bit about, I know you work with and provide programming for older adults with various levels of cognition, cognitive skills. Tell us a little bit about the different programs that you have there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we're really proud of what we've done with, and especially in the last year and a half, we've made huge strides in our programming. We are getting a earlier level of cognition decline in, so a lot of MCI, mild cognitive impairment, and early stage dementia through our doors. So we really want to try to meet them where they're at with our activities and programming. So Our goal is to really, first off, when people come in the afternoons, we do Monday through Thursday respite in the afternoons from 12:30 to 1:30. 12:30 to 5:30. That would be a very short respite. So when they come in at 12:30, we kick off together, really building that connection amongst members. So doing exercises and coffee chat and really kind of getting everybody pepped up for the day. And then the rest of the afternoon is concurrent programming. And that is so that each member can be reached with whichever cognitive level that they're at. So we may have a senior scholars for those who are in that MCI or early dementia diagnosis, or we may have music therapy or ping pong or other things going on for any level, but also to make sure that we're meeting those who need a little bit more assistance and maybe farther along in their journey. So what's wonderful about our programming is that members have a choice of which program they'd like to go into for the afternoon. And most of the time they kind of know what interests them and where they'd like to go. But as we get into the conversation more today, what's really helped us is using the BCAT program so that if someone necessarily isn't sure where they'd like to go, maybe they can't communicate it very well, or maybe they're just not sure, don't have a good understanding, we know where they're at cognitively so that we can help guide that decision and get them in the right programming to make sure they're still getting the most out of their program.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know, Leah, you play a key role in doing some of those assessments and meeting and doing those intakes, meeting with folks and getting sort of their background information and helping to support those decisions. Can you tell us a little bit about, what assessments are you using currently? What tests and measures? What's helpful to you to help identify those different levels of cognition, and a little bit about what those conversations look like?
Sure. So we had someone here, a speech therapist, her company still works with us, who did BCATs for years. And I was a part of family meetings where she would give us the scores on those tests. So it's a tool that we've known about, and we've known that it was helpful to have those scores. But during the pandemic, I got the opportunity to take the training and become trained to do those assessments myself. And it's been great, a great experience to be able to do the testing and to understand what the results are in a much more meaningful way. I use the BCAT, the Brief Cognitive Assessment Tool. I use the Kitchen Picture Test for visual judgment. I use the VPJ for the verbal test of practical judgment, and the BADS for the emotional state, the brief anxiety and depression
scale.
Thank you. That's the only one I struggle with.
It's a lot of acronyms to keep track of.
Yeah. So what I would say though is that we had this information for years about the BCAT, and now doing the BCAT with the clients and being able to see that when I give a BCAT to a client, I might have two clients come up with the same total score, but their memory score and their executive functioning is very different. And that means that interventions are very different for them. It means that the family's understanding of how to best be with them should be really a different approach. So being that person, understanding the scores, sharing that information with Jen, sharing it with the families, really has made a huge difference for us in terms of feeling like we're getting absolutely the most out of these tools that we can. For example, using the kitchen picture test, I can give that assessment to someone, see that they have what appears to be normal judgment, but it's normal judgment for very black and white visual cues in the environment. I can put that together with the BCAT and know that their memory score is really terrible. So even though they can identify there's a knife on the floor or a fire on the stove, if they see that, understand what it is, but their memory is so bad that they walk out of the kitchen and forget there's a fire on the stove, there's still a big risk. So it's great information to be able to share with staff and families about how to approach the person. The verbal test of practical judgment. I might have somebody with good visual judgment. They can see a danger. But when I talk to them and ask them questions using the VPJ, I discover that in fact, they're severely impaired in their judgment. Even though they might have good social skills and they can chit chat and seem like they've got it together, they really can't process. Their executive functioning is low, and they're not able to make good judgments. So again, helps us to know how to respect them and to give them the type of environment that they need.
Yeah, I like how you give those examples, and it sounds like you're really able to customize with each individual client what's best for them, where their level of cognition is, what programs or materials might be most helpful for them. And then it sounds like you're pulling in the family members and giving them some education, some information that they can also use to support, enhance, the life of their loved ones. So, Leah, I imagine sometimes those conversations might be difficult. This might be the first time where somebody's hearing that their loved one has confirmed, concerns. Maybe they suspected it, but they haven't really known for sure. Can you tell us a little bit about how do the families react when you have those conversations?
Sure. And I will say that Jen and I together, and sometimes as other members of our staff will join, we really come together as a team to support the families when we share this information. We want to share, sometimes hard information, but we're also sharing some wonderful things about the joy that they're experiencing here at the Ivy. But I will tell you that there's a variety of reactions. And I was thinking about it before we talked about what are the common reactions. And for some people, it's just this is a kind of a relief. I've been suspecting this. I thought this was going on, and here it is in black and white, and now I know. Now it's confirmed what I thought was there. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. Sometimes people were fearful and wishing for a higher score. But sometimes I also will have somebody who's really surprised. They thought the person was really functioning much better than they were.
Interesting.
And they thought they didn't even think they had dementia. They thought maybe it was just mild cognitive impairment because they got that diagnosis 2 years ago and they didn't realize it had changed. So there can be that surprise. And then a third way that sometimes people react is some validation. Sometimes a spouse or the primary caregiver that's living with the person sees this decline, sees what's happening, wants help and support, and other family who aren't there don't see it. They see little snippets and they think the person, he's fine. There's no dementia there. And so sometimes it's a real support for the primary caregiver to say, wow, look, see, I've been telling you how bad it is, and here it is. I'm telling you how hard it is, and here's why. So a lot of different reasons, but in the end, what we share with families is that the value of these tests is how it helps us interact with and be with the person with dementia in a better way.
Yeah, so I know part of that is getting the tests and measures in and having the scores and being able to have the conversation. But that next step is really, to your point, providing support for these folks. What do you find most of the families are looking for? Or what support is typically something that people are asking about? Are there any resources or things that come up, frequently that you could share?
Yeah. So I'd say that, when I think about what they most need, a lot of times, I think early on, I thought everybody just needs a lot of emotional support. And certainly we're giving some of that. And that's really needed. We have support groups. We have a lot of things for that. But I think families are needing practical. Primary caregivers especially are needing very practical support. They're using us for respite, so they're getting some respite 20 hours a week with us, but they need more. And having these test results can validate why they need more. Like maybe they've been saying, I can't justify bringing in caregivers to supplement when they're not here at the Ivy. But in fact, they really need that. And this will either for themselves justify it or to family who have been resistant to having more help come in. That real practical help. Sometimes other families will come together, multiple family members for the family meeting, get these results and say, wow, mom really needs help. Let's get on it. And so then maybe the family members or adult children might come in and actually provide some of that. Or if they're not local, they might provide some financial help to get more support in. So I think that's really there. And what they don't necessarily ask for, but I think they really need is some education and understanding so that they can understand that, in fact, the person who with dementia is not being stubborn or difficult. that they're really not capable of multitasking anymore. They're really not capable of doing the tasks that they used to do. And when a caregiver understands that and can accept that, their expectations lower, which lowers their stress because they're more realistic about what can and can't happen.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. The concept around cognition, cognitive wellness may be new to some people. People are very tuned into physical wellness, exercise, eating right, those types of things. But sometimes this is new to people, where a focus on cognition and cognitive wellness is something that they haven't really experienced or talked about. And Jen, I know you offer a comprehensive wellness program at the Ivy that addresses some of these issues and concerns. Can you tell us a little bit about how this wellness and this wellness focused approach is integrated into your programs?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a good point to say that I second everything that Leah said. And Leah, you give a great example when we're with our family meeting about, if someone, was missing a leg, you wouldn't expect them to, stand up and walk up a flight of stairs, so you kind of have to think of it that way. You can't see that there is damage to the brain, but there are areas that are damaged where they can't actually do some of the tasks. So that is really a great visual. And I just wanted to second that I think that's so important and a huge part of what we do. But we have brought wellness into both our on-site program and also our brain health workshops, really looking at all 6 different pillars. So the pillars that we're looking at are connection, which I spoke on earlier. So really being around people and feeding off of that connection. We talk to our families about sleep. One of the things with our on-site program is that once participants start to come, we find that they are actually getting a better night's sleep because they leave us more tired and are able to get a better night's sleep at home, which is really helping the caregiver as well. Nourish, they're only with us for an afternoon program, but they get a healthy snack with us when we're there in the afternoon. And we do talk to our families about how is eating at home, what sort of nourishment are they getting, and also giving them tactics, especially when they're farther along in their journey, to help them to be successful in that particular area. Movement, of course, our members Monday through Thursday get 150 minutes of exercise while they're with us, which meets the requirements of what all of us as adults should be getting. So anything that they're getting at home with their loved ones, whether that's walks or exercise classes or anything else that they're doing with their caregivers or loved ones at home, are on top of what they're already supposed to be getting each day, which is that each week, which is that 150 minutes. They are getting time to rest. So we incorporate yoga and mindfulness and different things in our activities in the afternoon to really embrace where they are at and just really help them enjoy and relax when they're with us. And then discover. I mean, I will tell you that I know that we're dealing with a lot of the population who has severe memory loss, but they still really enjoy, appreciate, and will meet you where you're at. So when we do senior scholars, like, learn Spanish in 10 minutes or learning sign language, they are present and they are learning, and we get so much feedback that they really enjoy that particular programming. So really trying to build those neurons and help them discover new things when they're with us. So we're incorporating that into our on-site in the afternoon. And then the brain health workshops that we've talked about that we're now doing on Fridays, we're really approaching a population that is the worried well. So people who do not have a diagnosis, they may be worried that they could get dementia down the road. Maybe they have a loved one who went through that particular journey. Maybe they have just educated themselves around brain health and know how important it is to be doing things to help prevent the onset of dementia. So our brain health workshops on Fridays also embrace those 6 pillars and have subject matter experts in each particular subject to come in and give presentations as well as do hands-on as well. So we really have incorporated it fully in both of our programs.
I love all of the information you're sharing. It sounds so dynamic. It sounds like it's a great time. And you're addressing all of these needs for these older adults. They're getting so much in your program. If somebody has a loved one right now who is thinking, this sounds great, this sounds like something, I would love my mom or my dad to be a part of. Tell us a little bit about how would people get connected to you all? What's the process like to learn more about the Ivy and the programs you share?
Great question. Thank you for that. You can go to the Ivy website, which is www.theivy, that's THEIVEY.com. We have a lot of great information on there, but most importantly is our contact number and information to call. It is definitely a connection process. So we will want to talk to you on the phone, find out where you're at. Maybe you are a fantastic candidate for our brain health workshops on Fridays. Or maybe you do have a loved one who has started their journey through dementia and you need support as a caregiver, and possibly through our on-site program in the afternoon. So a lot of it is just getting some good information out up front and figuring out exactly what their needs are, and bringing them in for a tour and showing them what we're all about. What the Ivy staff is benefiting from is putting in all of these wonderful wellness aspects. We all get to experience it as well. So when you walk in the front door, you'll feel it immediately from the staff and everything that we're doing there.
I love this. Well, thank you. I really appreciate Leah and Jen. Thank you for taking the time today to share your expertise, as well as some insights into what your programs are all about and how your members are benefiting from all of these really great, dynamic, diverse programs that you offer. If anybody would like to get in touch, you have their contact information. So again, we thank you so much for taking the time to join, and we wish everybody a great day. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
again
Lynn.
for having me.